So review number 8 is just a homework assignment that goes with review number 7. So you should try it on your own first and then watch the video on ones you need help on. So you have 2n squared. You're going to multiply the entire equation by the LCD of 2n squared. So the n squared cancels with the n squared. You're left with 2 times 3, which is 6. Equals n squared cancels with n squared, and 2 times 1 is 2. Now I'm really worried about the subtraction because it's subtract and then it's the whole thing, n plus 1. So the 2n squared cancel. But the reason why some of us are going to miss this is because the negative is going to distribute through the parentheses. So now I have 6 equals 2 subtract n subtract 1. And 2 subtract 1 is 1 subtract n. You'll subtract the 1 to the left. 5 equals negative n, and so n is equal to negative 5. All right, let's try the next one. Highlight the answer. Okay, the next one. So the next one, the LCD is 5b squared. So you're going to multiply the entire equation by a 5b squared. Now I know there's only one b here, but because there's 2 b's, you need to do the b squared so that every single fraction, the denominator will cancel. If it doesn't cancel, you don't have the LCD. So let's go ahead. The 5b squared is going to cancel with this 5b squared, leaving me 1. Subtract. The 5b will cancel with the 5b, but I'm still left with a b equals. The b squared will cancel with the b squared, and that leaves me with a 5 times 1, which is 5. So subtract the 1. The opposite of b is equal to 4. Divide that negative to the other side, and b is equal to negative 4. Start with the LCD. The LCD is x minus 1. You're going to take it. X minus 1, you already have it, and this is the same thing as 1 over 1, so there's nothing to cancel there. All right, so you're going to multiply the whole equation by x subtract 1, and you're going to multiply every single fraction by x minus 1. The x minus 1 will cancel with the x minus 1, leaving me just a 5. The x minus 1 will cancel with the x minus 1, leaving you a 1. And nothing cancels with the 1, so 1 times x minus 1 is x minus 1. You have a plus there, so plus x minus 1. The 1's are going to cancel, and your answer is x equals 5. Example 4, you're going to start by finding the LCD. The LCD, you look at all the denominators and you take each thing that's there. So a minus 1, you're going to take it. 1 over 1, there's nothing there to take. A minus 2, or I said a minus 1, but I meant a minus 2. And then a minus 2, you already have it. So you're going to multiply the whole thing by the LCD, which is a subtract 2. Take a subtract 2, multiply it to each part. All the denominators should cancel if you do it right. A minus 2 cancels with a minus 2, leaving you a subtract 1. The 1, nothing cancels, so you have a plus, don't forget the plus, and then a subtract 2. That kind of looks weird, but that's okay. Plus a subtract 2. Oh, I don't want parentheses. Because if it was subtraction, then you would need the parentheses, but because it's add, you can just put a subtract 2. I like that better. Equals, a subtract 2 cancels with a subtract 2, leaving you a. Okay, so now you're just going to 1a plus 1a is 2a. Negative 1 plus negative 2 is negative 3 equals a. Subtract a over here. So a is equal to, we'll add the 3 to the right, a equals 3. By the way, don't forget to check the solutions to make sure that they don't make the denominator 0. If I plug in 3 for a, none of the denominators come out to 0, so I'm good. So looking at number 5, the first thing I did was factor. Now I'm going to look for the LCD. The LCD, I look at the first fraction, it's a k plus 4, I take it. The second fraction has a k plus 4, I matched it, so I don't need another one, but I do need a k squared. So multiply that by k squared. K squared and k plus 4, I already have it, so my LCD is k squared times k plus 4. I'm going to multiply the whole equation by the LCD of k squared times k plus 4. The order doesn't matter. Multiply every single fraction by the same thing and make sure that all the denominators cancel. K plus 4 cancels with k plus 4, leaving me k squared times 1, which is just k squared. Both of these cancel with both of those, leaving me with the k plus 5. Now this is important. There's a subtraction there. I know you can't see it, but there's a subtraction there. So it's going to be subtract, and you're going to need to put into parentheses k plus 5. Or you can just distribute and put subtract k, subtract 5 equals. So that is a really, really common mistake here. So I just want to highlight that this is subtract the parenthesis k plus 5. So it's subtract the whole thing, because I'm worried that you're going to miss that problem. And if you did miss it and you're checking it, that's why. All right, and then the k squared times k plus 4 cancels, and that's just going to give me 1. So now I have k squared subtract k subtract 5 equals 1. Subtract the 1 over. So now I have k squared subtract k subtract 6 equals 0. I'm going to factor that. K times k is k squared. Looks like it's 3 times 2. The 3 is negative and the 2 is positive there. So put each factor equal to 0 and k is 3 and k equals negative 2. You do need to check it to make sure nothing goes to 0. If nothing does, then you are good to go and your answers are 3 and negative 2. Example 6 is very, very similar to example 5. So if you're watching the videos, I'd like you to stop it and try example 6 by yourself. So looking at it, I started by factoring, and then I'm looking for the LCD. The LCD is going to be a squared times a minus 5. Take it. The second one is also a squared times a minus 5. And the last one, a squared, is already here, so we're good to go, ready to cancel. You multiply the whole equation by the LCD, which is a squared times a subtract 5. Every fraction gets multiplied by that. Now, I did try to factor this to see if it would cancel with anything in the bottom first, but it did not, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip that step, and I'm going to just multiply by the LCD. So this whole thing is going to cancel, leaving me with just the 3a plus 9, because it canceled with this. So I get 3a plus 9 equals, this cancels, a squared times a minus 5 cancels with that, leaving me with 5a squared plus 55a plus 140. Again, I factored it, but nothing reduced, so I just left it. And then a squared is going to cancel with a squared, and a squared times 1 is, a squared cancel with a squared, and a minus 5 times 1 is a minus 5. So this is a subtract 5. Now you're going to combine my terms, so you have 3a plus 9 is equal to 5a squared, 55 plus a is 56a, and 140 subtract 5 is 135. You're going to set the whole thing equal to 0 as a quadratic equation and then factor. So after combining my terms, I got 5a squared plus 53a plus 126 equals 0. Factoring was not super easy. I did it by guess and check, actually. 5a times a is 5a squared. I tried to find factors of 126, 18 times 7, and then I checked outside insides to get 53a. Now you're going to put each of those factors equal to 0 and solve. So you have 5a plus 18 equals 0, and a plus 7 equals 0. So you subtract the 7 and you get a equals negative 7. Here you're going to subtract the 18, so 5a equals negative 18. You're going to divide by 5, so a is equal to negative 18 over 5. You do want to check them to make sure that the denominator does not go to 0 when you plug them in. I don't believe it does, so I think you're good to go. So on number 7, I started by factoring all the denominators, and then I looked for the LCD. 5x minus 3, I took it. X minus 4, I took it. X minus 4, it's already there. And these two are both already there. So I multiplied the whole equation by the LCD, which was 5x subtract 3 times x minus 4. I canceled away, so all of these canceled. I was left with 4. X minus 4 canceled with one of them, and I was left with 5x subtract 3, which I had to multiply to x plus 1. That's this part. Equals, both of these canceled, and I got 1. Here I did first outer, inner, last, FOIL, and this is what I'm left with. Now I'm going to combine my terms and factor. I end up with 5x squared plus 2x equals 0. So now what I'm going to do is factor out an x, and that leaves me 5x plus 2 equals 0. X is one of the factors, so x equals 0. Put it to 0, 0 product property. This one, 5x plus 2, when you place it equal to 0, you get negative 2/5. You want to check these and make sure they don't make the entire denominators go to 0. I don't believe they do, so you're good. 8, the first thing you want to do is look for the LCD. So you have an R, you have an 8, and you have an 8R squared. Therefore, the LCD is take the R, take the 8, and take the R squared is the most, so you want to take the most. So take 8R squared. Multiply 8R squared to each part. So the R is going to cancel with one of the R's, leaving me 8R equals. The 8 is going to cancel with the 8, leaving me R squared. Now this is where I'm really nervous for us, is the subtraction. So we're going to do subtract, and the 8R squared is going to cancel with the 8R squared, but you're going to need to put parentheses because it is subtract the whole thing. So subtract R squared, subtract 7R plus 12. The number one mistake would be to forget those parentheses. These parentheses here are These parentheses here are really, really important. So it's subtract, and then if you subtract the whole thing, you're going to distribute this subtraction through the quadratic factor. So let's do that now. So this is going to give me 8R is equal to R squared, subtract R squared, plus 7R, subtract 12. The R squared and the negative R squared cancel. Take 7R and subtract it to the left, which gives you R equals negative 12. Check it to make sure it works, and that should. The LCD on number 9 is 4m. So I'm going to multiply every single piece by 4m. So that's what I'll do first. 4m's cancel, leaving me m squared, subtract 2m, subtract 3. The 4m cancels, so this is equal to 5m squared plus 3m subtract 14. Nothing cancels with the 1, so 4m times m is subtract 4m squared. Next thing I'm going to do is combine my terms. So I have m squared subtract 2m subtract 3 equals 5m squared minus 4m squared is just m squared plus 3m subtract 14. Because I have an m squared on each side of the equation, they cancel. And now I can just go ahead and combine my terms. I will add have the 2m over here because I like to keep my m's positive. So 5m is equal to, and then I'm going to put 14 to the left, so my numbers are together. Those canceled, those canceled. 14 subtract 3 is 11. Divide by 5, and my final answer is m equals 11 fifths. Make sure that that doesn't make the denominator 0, and you're good to go. Last problem. The first thing I did was factor, and now I'm going to write what the LCD is. Oh, I usually write my LCD in purple. Let's change that. All right, where is purple? There we go. LCD. V minus 2, I take it. 1 over 1, there's nothing to worry about. V minus 2, I have it, but I don't have a V plus 1. So this is going to help me cancel all of my denominators. I'm going to multiply the whole thing by, I'm going to put it on this side, V subtract 2 and V plus 1. Multiply every part of the equation by this same thing. So V minus 2 and V minus 2 are going to cancel. That's going to leave me with 1 times V plus 1, which is simply V plus 1, equals. Nothing cancels with the 1, so I have to write both of these. I'm going to write them multiplied out as V squared subtract V subtract 2. Subtraction, and then both of these cancel with both of those, so it's just subtract V squared. You can see that V squared and negative V squared will cancel. V and negative V. This is going to give me 2V when I add V over here. So 2V equals, subtract the 1, and you get negative 3. Divide by 2, and your answer is V equals negative 3